Well, thank you, Amelia and Lisa, for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to participate with SCORE again. Always, it's fun to be involved with the group. And for those of you that are part of the group today and watching us, welcome. Nice to meet you. Just want to let you know, this is really a high level, an introduction of websites, how to use them for small business. At a high level, the tools that may be available to you. We'll talk about different types of websites. This is not, unfortunately, the opportunity to really deep dive into any of these topics, but really to introduce you to a lot of the topics around websites, getting them built, getting them promoted, and how to engage with your users. I want to let you know, in addition to SCORE and Amelia recording this presentation, and he'll make it available a little later, I am making these slides available as well. The means to access the slides are going to be on my last slide. I will show you how to do that. It is on my website. I suspect there'll be some questions a little bit later, and then so that'll be fine. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably do that with Q&A. I think that's what the best approach will be. So you're welcome to enter a question in the Q&A. I have two stop points in the middle of the presentation, about 1/3 and then about 2/3 of the way in. And that's where I'll stop and read through some of the questions that are posted. Of course, with such a large group participating, it's hard to otherwise be interactive. And of course, at the end of the presentation, there'll be time for Q&A as well. So let us just get ourselves right into it. So just want to introduce myself a little bit. My company is Princeton Technology Advisors. I'm an information technology consultant. Typical business clients of mine are small businesses and not-for-profit organizations. A little more than 1/3 of my clients are nonprofits. And so there's lots of different types of work that I offer my clients, certainly websites. And websites are not always that you need a brand new website. Some people come to me and say, I need a new website for my business. Often what they need is just some sort of update or even a redesign, but they can work with what they have. Also, as the organization grows a little bit, if you're going to move beyond your PC and need servers and have that managed, I can help you with that as well. Part of websites, part of what we'll be talking about today, SEO, search engine optimization. So we will be talking about that a little bit later. And I do search engine marketing and email marketing as well. And I manage technology projects for some of my clients. And I'm an active blogger. We're going to talk for a little bit about blogging as well as part of the website presentation today. So let's get into it and first start with, well, what is a website? And a website really, it's a collection of various, we call web pages. You've probably seen them every time you've been on the internet. And they all tend to be related, and they're accessed by using an internet browser. And what I mean by related is the theme, the content all talks about one grouping, common grouping of information. Not very effective, we'll talk more about it later, to have one website to talk about lots of different things. It can, but be used that way, just don't do that. A web page, that's the document that's accessible through the internet. And again, you use your internet browser by entering URL or the web address, Uniform Resource Locator or web address. Some people call it a domain, and that's fine as well. And the internet browser, that's the software or the program that you use, and it accesses the content on the World Wide Web. And if you've ever seen a website start with www, that's what those 3 W's mean. World Wide Web. So use an internet browser to access the website and view the web pages. There are also blog sites, and a lot of people see these very differently, but they're really not. They're a website, or for some people, it could be a page on an existing website. And typically, you use them to write some sort of articles. They tend to be fairly small, a page or two at most, and those articles are called posts. A blog, a little different than a regular web page, typically has an archive, and that archive is the index of the past posts, and the posts typically appear in reverse chronological order. The most recent entry is on the top, and it just makes it a little bit easier to scroll down, and then typically what you do is you find the one of interest, you click on it, and you can read that post. And that's really what a blog site is, but really it is just another form of a website. In general, site or website structure and content, well, websites need to be hosted. They need to be hosted on a server. Technically, they can be hosted on a PC, but more often than not, websites are typically on a server, a larger computer. It's really the computer where all the website programming and content is stored, and typically the server is on full-time, 24/7, or has a very small downtime window. The reason why you may not host your website on your own PC is it's likely that periodically you do turn your own PC off, which would mean the website would not be available for others. Typically, it could be your own server, or you could use a hosting company, and there are lots of them. Nowadays, very few individuals and even businesses don't have their own server or servers anymore. More and more computing is being offered what's called on the cloud or outside your own organization. Now we'll get into the types of hosting companies again a little bit later as well. As for the content, what you put on the website, there's text, that's the written or the typed in words, and those become important. You can have images and graphics as well, charts and illustrations and photographs. And we're not going to go deep dive into where you get these sorts of illustrations. They're on the web, they can be accessed, or you can create your own content. Video, the Google world likes video. Video on a website really demonstrates that it's a very strong and valuable website. So if you have any video, you can post that as well. Video typically is not posted on the server. It's usually hosted on another video platform. We're not going to go into much more detail than that, but think of YouTube. You put your video on YouTube and your website accesses it, makes it available. And then there are links. And links are the things that you click on to go to other web pages or other websites. And that's part of the content as well. And there are really two broad categories of websites. At least this is the way I see them. There are static websites. Static websites really minimize the ability to engage with your audience, with your readers. They tend to be very one-way. They tend to be very informational. Static sites serve up information to the reader. So things like FAQs or frequently asked questions, those sorts of pages and sites, that's one way. It's not engaging your user or reader to participate any other way. Wiki, like Wikipedia, those sorts of pages where they're informational, one way. Businesses that are just describing their products, their services, their portfolios, if they're offering podcasts, webcasts, blog postings, etc. Really, again, informational, you're providing informational one way. Maybe you can download documents and photos. Sometimes you allow for that, but really there's not a lot of variation, not a lot of interaction. These sites are perfectly fine, nothing wrong with them. We'll talk more about website best practices in a couple of minutes. And then there are also interactive sites where the reader or the viewer of your website is really a bit more of an active participant. And so they can be more active on the site and engage with you and your business a bit more directly. A lot of times business applications, the kind where there are fields to fill in. That's something that's a bit interactive. E-commerce, we're going to talk more about that later. Where you're shopping online, those tend to be interactive. Or portal websites, websites where anything you log into and you're searching and you're contributing search information in order to retrieve what you want to get out of it. Those tend to be interactive websites. In general, you do want to engage with your audience. You want them to be interested and stay on your website. Interactive sites do a much better job at that, typically, than static sites. So why are websites important? Well, your customers expect you to have one. From a perspective of SCORE, I'm assuming all of you are in or about to be in your own business. Websites are just as important, maybe more so than a business card. Imagine that you met somebody who was you were interested in speaking with, wanted to learn more about, and they told you, no, I'm sorry, I don't have a business card to give you. A website, not having a website, is just as an odd sensation for people now. Yeah, everyone expects you to have one. People are searching for products and information online. So it's what we're really used to in the commerce marketplace. So people are expecting that your business are online. A good professional site gives you and your brand credibility. And your brand is very important. Your brand is what people think about you and know about you, the sensation that you give them. Websites help project that. You get to support your brand based on the content that you're providing. Also, you can influence people and educate them by providing information on the web pages or blog pages and teaching them something or educating or downloading manuals or whatever it is. That way, you get people to have confidence in you. You can help influence their decision in what it is that they want to buy, who they want to buy from, and hopefully they'll shop with you for business or service. You can also update your customers on offers and products and events. So when you have a sale going on, you might have a page that talks about what's on sale. Free shipping might be a special. So you get to do different things like that. Maybe events, if you have the type of business where you go to shows or conferences and you want to let your viewers know that you're going there, you can put that either as a pop-up, some text. You may even have an event calendar. It's up to you to decide what's best for you. And if you're not yet known, this is where people begin to find out about you, because people are constantly on the internet searching for stuff. And the way I know that is I do that, and I know you do that as well. And so when you're searching for someone like you, you're hoping that your website pops up. Bottom line, if you're not found online, you're irrelevant. And I don't mean to insult you at all that you or your business or the quality of the service that you offer are irrelevant at all. But if someone is searching for a business or service that's like yours and they don't find yours, they're not able to contact you or call you. So it becomes very important that you do have a website. You will be found. If you've noticed when you've used Google or Bing or the other search engines, there's a little box. We're going to talk more about search engines later. There's a little box where you put in search criteria, things you're looking for, and what comes up are all websites and web pages, and hopefully you'll be up on that list as well. So hopefully with some of the information today, you'll be able to get there. So let's talk about some best practices around websites. Absolutely must be a mobile compatible. In the website world, we call it a responsive design. And pretty much now, any website that you build with any of the builders that are out there, the templates that they give you, which is kind of the blueprint or the framework of your site, they're all built to be responsive. Older sites may not be. So that means what it basically will do, the pages will automatically know what type of device it's running on and display them accordingly so that's easy to read. So you see in the little picture there, there's a widescreen desktop monitor. There's a laptop that's also horizontal, a little smaller. Tablets and phones, even smaller. Imagine if you had that big screen, that 22, 24-inch screen, and it had a web page, and it was trying to serve that up on a phone without adjusting it. It would be worse than an eye chart. So it needs to be smart enough, or it's called responsive, to the different types of screen sizes and shapes. In terms of the content, it adapts to the device and the screen side, right from desktop all the way down to tablet and to mobile. It's actually, for us as designers, it's the most flexible way for us to design a website. All the tools make it easy to do. And in the old days, what we had to do as web designers, we had to build in code or manually to make it understand what type of device it may be running in. Well, now for us, it's nice and easy, so we can develop a little bit more quickly and provide a nice product to our clients. You can do the same yourself. And in terms of millennials, about 20% of millennials, right now that's the age group of 22 to 38, they don't even use a desktop or a laptop, which means they're using a phone or maybe their tablet, but typically picking up their phone, their mobile device to do their shopping, their searching and such. So you want to make sure that your website easily can be read on one of those devices, especially if you're going to be promoting to younger half of the audience in the age group. A little bit about the content, the things that you post on the website. You want it to be descriptive, but not too wordy. And unless we sat down and had a conversation, it's probably a little hard to go into much detail about how are you descriptive, but not too wordy. But you certainly don't want it to be like a volume of a book. You don't want to make people work too hard. Also, websites tend to be fairly hierarchical. You have a home page when you get there. There might be a menu to go to other pages. As you go to the other pages, you're going into more level of detail. You can add more text content on those pages a level or two down. The higher up pages, you want a little bit less. You want to grab their attention first, and then they'll go to the page once they're vested in that topic and they'll read more about it. You certainly want to include what we call keywords. These are phrases or words that people use to search, and there are ways to figure these out in each industry. And typically, these are the words and phrases that others may use, not what you think should be. So you may have a very good understanding for yourself about your business, your products, your services. Maybe there are technical terms that you might use, but if the other people, your readers, are typically not industry-oriented and tech-oriented, you may have to use the layperson terms. So you need to be aware it's the way others will be searching for someone like you, not just what you think. Certainly add images and video for interest. And so you want to make them align with the content as well. And you want to add links to other websites. Google really likes this and being in the search world. And we're going to talk more about search engine optimization towards the end of the presentation. And that's what this is about. This is related to the search engine optimization. It's not that you want to get people off your website, because certainly you don't. But really what happens in the Google world, if Google finds your website and sees links to other websites, and Google understands it's of a similar business or industry as yours, it strengthens what Google says is the relevancy of your site to the search terms that people are putting in. And if you have relationships to other businesses or other websites, Google sees you as a more relevant website to show, and you may come higher up in the rankings, search rankings. And your web content really needs to tell a consistent story. So it's not that you're writing a story about yourself, but really about the theme of your business. As you go from page to page, it really needs to be information about you and your business. Even though some of the pages will have product details or service detail or contact us and be a little different from each other, there really needs to be a theme, because across the web pages, Google and Bing will understand the theme of your website. And again, you hopefully will come up higher in a Google search or a Bing search. So you want to tell that story. If you are someone that is engaging in multiple businesses, 2 or 3 businesses that are really very different. So if you're an accountant and you're also an artist and you are trying to promote both businesses, I would say you need separate websites. If you put the accountant information and the artistry information on one website, then across the website, it's an inconsistent story, and it creates confusion for Google. So you want to have a consistent story. Local SEO. We're going to go into search engine optimization in more detail a little later, but I wanted to talk about local SEO, and that's really the process of letting Google know where your business is located. So if your business is fairly local or regional, you certainly want to build in information on your website that helps Google understand more about the location of your business, the geography. So 20% of Google searches are local, and I gave some example right here. It's more likely someone will be putting in business counseling Mercer County instead of just business counseling. And if you're wondering why this is important or how else Google wants to make sure, you may have turned on certain apps or websites and it asks if it can know your location. So it wants to know where you are, so it can serve up relevant results to your queries. So you want to optimize your content for the local search. You're going to want to add the location and contact information on every page. There's different ways of doing that subtly. You want to use local search terms as keywords if it's relevant. You can even change the web addresses or the URLs. Some websites, and I do this with some of my clients, so instead of having every web page does have its own URL or its own web address. If your website is www.mybusiness.com, if you go to the services page, it would be www.mybusiness.com/services or something similar. we can actually specifically name, instead of calling that page services for the URL, we can call it services Mercer County. We can make it a longer name. Google likes that. Google likes to learn about that information. And certainly if you have a business that has a location that your customers can visit, you might put up a map and directions, and that will provide more information to help the websites know about, the searchers know about local SEO, to find you locally. And I talked about having a static versus an interactive website. Calls to actions are a great way to engage your readers and your users. And a call to action is an image or a text, anything that'll prompt the user or visitors to take some sort of desired action. And here are just a couple of examples. One example would be enter your email address and we'll send you a newsletter, or download some content from us. Often you might do that you might just want to give it away, or also to get the email address, or things like what Amazon and other e-commerce sites do. We'll talking more about e-commerce in a moment. Free shipping, or buy one, get one free, or other things that engage the people to stick on your website and keep working with you and looking through your website. When you have an effective call to action, it really does increase the effectiveness of your website. People tend to stay on it longer, look at more pages, and be more engaged. We'll be talking a little later about analytics, how you keep track of when people are on and what they're doing. We're also talking about that later. Okay, so, but this helps keep people engaged. Now, in addition to just having website content, you want to promote your website content. You want to get people to know about it. So it's not just enough to publish your website, you need to let customers know about it. And if you put your website out there, they won't know until it can more organically be found. So it's all about providing your customers information that's helpful to them. Always think about who are the people you're most willing to help, either personally or professionally. Typically, it's people that have helped you before. So you want to help your customers, providing customers the information or easy access to what they're looking for, or specials or pricing. It's got to be helpful to them. They'll be more interested. And then it'll create some buzz. They may talk to their friends in the network. You can also promote your content via social media sites. There's lots of social media sites: Facebook, LinkedIn, industry-oriented ones, Instagram, YouTube. A million of them are out there. We're not going into a deep dive at all into social media on this presentation, but what's nice is you can post on those social media sites for free. You can do email marketing and send it out to your email list as well, get people to start knowing about you. And some of your interaction between websites and social media, you want to add buttons with links to your social media sites. You want your visitors to begin to connect with you and engage with you online. You want them to like you. You want them to comment. So if you have, here's Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you have any of those, you're going to want to put those on your website, certainly. Now, I'm not saying you need to be on the more the merrier, because there's so many social media sites, you could just be overwhelmed and too busy doing only social media. You'll have to figure out the site that's best for you, where your audience participates. And you'll also want to add statistics from your social media sites if it's relevant for what you're doing. These might go on pages or posts that are shared, that are liked, that others are commenting on. And so let people coming to your site know that this sort of engagement is going on. The new visitors who come to your site may get impressed. Oh, look, there's 38 shares on Facebook. There's 36 on Twitter, whatever that is. So you want to make sure you give more information related to your social media. Again, it's all about engagement. Okay, so we are at our first intermission. You could do any of those pictures that you want. If you need to take a personal break, get a bite to eat, or of course, ask a question. And so right now I will open up the Q&A, and I'll go through some of these questions. Excuse me one second. What should I look for in choosing a hosting company? We're going to touch on hosting companies a little later. I'm not in a position to recommend one right now, and the reason why is it depends. But what you want to do is understand, is it within your budget? Do they offer the products and services that you need. Different ones do offer different products and services. Do they have tech support? Some are much better at providing tech support. Others, instead of providing tech support, rely on you or your technology infrastructure to manage that. So, yep. Let's see. Next one. What devices and browsers should I test my website against? Is it enough to test using Firefox on a PC, Safari on an iPhone, or should I be thorough testing 3 or 4 different browsers on both PC and Mac and iOS, Android and smartphone? So the short answer is, it depends. I'm a fan of testing it on as many devices as you can. The Android market is, give or take, about 46% of the market on phones. iPhone is a little bit just under that, and then you have all the other smaller companies, so you'll want to certainly test there. You'll want to make sure that you're on browsers that are the common ones that you use the most. Firefox is good. Safari is the Apple one. Chrome. Not a lot of people like the Microsoft, but check on that as well. So as many as you can. I did have one client call me last week that she was having a problem seeing a change we made to her website, and I tested it on my PC with 5 browsers and did not see the problem she saw. And so I wound up putting in a fix, but it was hard for me to test because I couldn't see it myself, and I tried 5 different browsers. So as many as you can.
David, I just wanted you to know there are about 3 questions on the chat window also.
Okay, I'll go there in just a moment.
Okay.
Yep, let's see. If you're running 2 different businesses, do you need 2 different LinkedIn accounts? So a LinkedIn account is not on the business. The LinkedIn account is on the person, but you can have LinkedIn business pages. And yes, I would have different LinkedIn business pages for each business. The account would be yours, but the different businesses would be having their own business pages. Do SCORE mentors help build the actual website? I think that's more for Amelia. I suspect not, but Amelia, I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, we serve as advisors, so we're not consultants. So we don't actually build the websites, but we can help you get the information, like what kinds of, we can help you work out what you should put there, etc. And if you have if you have some different choices, then we may have something we could tell you a little bit about, but no, you need to find somebody else to build the site.
Okay. Okay. What is the general price to get a basic website up and running? Average cost is good. Ballpark. That's not a question that's easy to answer. That's like asking someone, I need to buy a car. How much will it cost? So it all depends on what you're wanting to do. There are beginner or basic websites, single page websites that I can offer my clients for about $400 just to get online. That's where it starts. And but from there you can go up to a couple of thousand, and then depending on the nature of the business, it can go up even higher. And we'll be talking more about pricing for hosting a little bit later. The very basic one I offered actually is no hosting cost, and then hosting, depending on how many users you can have and how much storage you need, yada yada yada, can cost a little bit more. I will give my contact information at the end. You're welcome to connect with me. We could talk more about your situation. Will you touch on how to select web building companies? I will touch on it. This is not a deep dive into any of these, but yes, I will touch on it. Is it normal for a hosting company to filter emails to keep out .exe, .bat, etc.? It depends. Some may, and some may not. It could also be what your settings are on your own account, and it depends on who your hosting company is. They do tend to have their own spam blockers. I would think they're not going to block XEs because you may use email as a mean to pass them, but it's possible. You'd have to check with your hosting provider. Do you recommend doing your own website? I've heard it is very easy to do. What do you think? Or my son. Yes, some of these web builder tools have kind of drop and drag. With a little bit of patience, you can get started. I'll mention some of them later, like Weebly and Squarespace. Those are pretty good. Wix, pretty good to get started. WordPress, probably need to be a little bit more comfortable using the tool than like a Weebly or one of the other builders. What happens if a website won't load with a certain browser? You need to understand why that is occurring, whether it's the version of HTML or other things like that. It's a little bit of a investigation. Most browsers do load most websites, but if you know that your website works only with certain browsers, you may want to alert your clients. It depends on the nature of why you're building or how you're building the website. So it is possible that you have to deep dive, find out what's incompatible in the browser or in the web code. Having difficulty at the beginning and came to the webinar late, will there be a replay? Yes, so we're recording this presentation right now, plus the slide deck will be available at the end of the presentation. So SCORE will be providing the link to the video, and I will be providing the link to the slides. Will you be going over landing page strategy? I wasn't going to go over that as a strategy per se. I'd be more interested in knowing the details of your question. What do you mean by landing page strategy? If you wanted what information that's going to be there, we kind of talked about that with the verbal content. If you want from your strategy to want to know how will people find me, we're going to talk about search engine optimization in a moment. Many companies have both a website and an app. Just a website enough for most businesses. A mobile app tends to be a much more expensive investment, but it's also typically a better user experience. So you may get to a point where it makes sense for you to do so. But since websites can be responsive, can be designed with mobile in mind, typically, in many cases, that will be sufficient. Will you be discussing Etsy, Shopify, and other e-commerce sites? Yes, in just a minute. Okay, so where is chat? QA, new share, pause.
Maybe under the 3 dots.
There it is. Okay. Okay. And so, and Ellen also, I heard that Wix is not as strong for SEO than WordPress. What's your opinion on that? It can be. The trick with search engine optimization, and we're not going to do a deep dive into it, is you not only need to get access to the files, the pages, but you need to kind of get into the back-end database. There's a lot more you can do with WordPress, but Wix can also, what Wix has are plugins and add-ons that allow you to facilitate that. So it can be if you put the right information in. Plus, there's a lot more to SEO than the server platform. Okay, let's get into some of these chats. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, yes, yes. Is the mobile function an automatic part of website design or has to be set up? With current templates that you get from Wix and WordPress and all these other places, it's pretty much automatic. That's kind of my comment a little bit earlier where I said a few years ago, I would have had to code that specifically and kind of tell the page to reformat itself when it felt that it was on a different device. Now the server platforms do that on their own. If you're running 2 different businesses, it's the same question on LinkedIn, good. Will you touch on how to select a web building site? A little bit, yep, we're going to be talking about that. What is the rule of thumb when searching for data mining list house of email names? That's funny, that's another presentation that I do here for SCORE about email marketing. I am not a fan of using purchasing lists of email. They're expensive. So you have to be willing to make the investment. And there are only a few companies that really give you, I'll call them vetted and qualified lists. So you have to be very careful with that. So I'm not a big fan of it. If you are looking for a very specific targeted audience and you have an investment to get to them, maybe it's worth your while. You would have to make that decision. Will there or can there be a future deep dives into some of these topics? Well, I guess I'll have to talk to Amelia about that. or you can ask about other programs here at SCORE. You're also welcome to reach out to me. I'll give you my contact information if you have specific questions afterwards. I never charge for a phone call, so no worries about that. So I'm happy to talk with you a little bit more. Okay, so we got through the first intermission. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully you are also back from your break, and then we will get ourselves started with the next set of slides. So about 1/3 through, we'll get into some more website topics. Take another break, and then we'll get into SEO and analytics. So questions came up about e-commerce. So we'll talk about that certainly. What is e-commerce? Well, it's basically buying and selling of products or services via electronic channels such as the internet. That's the E, electronic commerce. Some people call it internet commerce, and that's fine. And so that's really just what it is. It's also known as online shopping. And you know a lot of the big platforms that are out there. What's nice about getting involved with e-commerce, you can sell your goods and services without the barrier of time or distance. If you had a store on Main Street and you were selling something, your customer base would be within a small geography. But with e-commerce, you could sell to people all around the world any time of day. You don't have to be in the store. There are a bunch of e-commerce tools that are out there. We'll touch on just a couple of them. Again, just an introduction. eBay. eBay started in the mid-90s as an auction site. It was very popular at the time. It's more and more become really an online store. And the way you know is when you get onto eBay and you search for something, a lot more of the items now, probably most of them, have the button buy it now. So you could just buy it now without bidding on it. And so it's really e-commerce from a purchase point of view rather than from an auction point of view. Amazon. So Amazon.com is the largest e-tailer in the world. You can create your own branded store. There are about 1 million resellers on Amazon that sell product by using Amazon's platform. So what's nice is you're visible, your products are visible when someone is searching for your product on Amazon.com. So it'll show up, you've probably seen and done searches in Amazon, you're looking for, here's an example of doormats. And Amazon may have their favorite or the ones that they sell. And if you look at this one, I put a little circle over, it's sold by Matt's Factory, M-A-T-S, Matt's Factory. That's actually a mat that I bought. It's outside my back door, so I can use it to rub the dirt off. And it was sold through Amazon by this other retailer. You certainly can do it on your own website. This is a website, this is a life coach. Her name is Beth Fitzgerald. She sells services right on her, coaching services right on her website. Just click the Buy It Now button and you can pay for the service and then it records back in her office. And there are e-commerce platforms. These are a few of them. I use Shopify. That's the one I recommend. Basically what these are, they're web platforms. In one sense, if you think of any of the others like Wix or WordPress or Weebly or Squarespace, that for websites, Shopify is kind of the same thing, BigCommerce, Volusion, the same thing. They allow you to create websites, but they have special components already built in, so you can have different sizes, different colors, all that kind of stuff that's typical with selling variations of product. They also have the credit card processing built in, or you can use your own. You can bring typically your own merchant processing solution in. So what they do, it's a web builder that already has a lot of e-commerce tools that are built in. So it can get you up and running. In all these cases, you can also put your own web domain on it. So it could be mycompany.com. It doesn't have to be a Shopify site. We're going to talk more about platform pricing a little bit later. There's some best practices about e-commerce. For one thing is you want to make sure you make a good first impression. You want to have good text, quality images. The pages have to be as nice as the products. And so I don't know if this guy, Funny Tuxedo and Dead Flowers, is making a good first impression. You want to make sure that you do use a mobile platform or a platform that will support mobile devices. Most of the popular ones now do. But just be aware, because so many people are shopping on their phone. And think about it. You may also be shopping on your phone. You may go to a store, look for something, and see a product being sold. And now you're going online to see if you can find the better price online. So the price and the product do need to be displayed well on a mobile device. And also show customer reviews. You want to have reviews and testimonials, and then because that'll give confidence to the new buyer that they should buy from you or buy the product or service that you're offering. Also, make it easy to make a purchase. I like that the sites that show prices up front. There are a couple of retail sites or e-tail sites where you see something, maybe you're shopping for a television or electronic device, and it says, put it in the cart and we'll show you the price. And for me, that's an experience that I don't find pleasant. So any sites that I would be building, I would not be doing that as a practice. Just make it nice and easy. You know, show that the price is what it is. People will make the decision. Also, when you can, provide appealing shipping. So a lot of people like free shipping. That may or may not be an option for you, or maybe you have fixed price shipping for the entire purchase, things like that that make it cost effective for you. And make it easy and fast to check out. There's some people that just want to go in, pick the one thing, and then check out right away. So you shouldn't have a lot of pages and other information to keep them on the site. I think if they're ready to check out and make that purchase, let them do it. If you put any barriers up in the way, they may change their mind. And also, this is one a lot of people who start out with e-commerce don't think about. Be prepared to fill the orders. In other words, when you get orders coming in, you better be able to send them out in a fair and timely process. So if you promise 2-day free shipping, you better make sure that you can execute that. So it could mean you keep inventory in your own house. That may be a way to do it, plus all the boxes and tape and everything you need for shipping. Or there are also what's called drop shipping, where basically you're taking the order for a product that you're going to sell, but there's a manufacturer of the product, and they will actually facilitate the transportation and the completion of the shipping. They'll box it up, put it on their carrier and whatnot. You'll pay a little more for that, but on the other hand, you don't have to keep any inventory, and they tend to be set up. So that may be an option as well. You have to decide what's really best for you. It all depends on how big and how your business is growing. Generally, the drop shipping method allows you to sell more variety and a larger inventory of products, especially when you're getting started, but a little bit more of an upfront cost. So in terms of platforms, if you're going to be blogging to promote information, to get your message out, to share with people, there are a bunch of blogging platforms that are out there. So WordPress, so a question about WordPress came up. There are actually 2 versions of WordPress. One is called WordPress.com. For the typical user, that's the one you're going to be looking at, WordPress.com. On WordPress.com, you can even get WordPress and a website from WordPress for free. It includes all the hosting. You don't pay anything per month. You don't pay anything to them at starting a website. What they do have on their free version, the website will say WordPress right at the bottom. You may think, is that a big deal or not? Well, a professional business may not want to have other businesses advertised on there. They also do have advertisements that will pop up from time to time. And also, you cannot easily assign your own website domain to the website. So if the name of your company is My Company, it's actually, the website's going to become mycompany.wordpress.com. So people will kind of see you're a beginner business. So I think it's good for blogging to use WordPress.com or the free model of it. They also have subscriptions that are more personal and business oriented at different prices. I think it starts as much as $3 or4 a month. It goes up to even higher. So you may want to look at a price somewhere closer to $12 to $25 for business. WordPress.org, that's the company that actually makes WordPress. And when you contact them, most people don't, you're actually then acquiring the software and you need to put it on a server. Now, that isn't needed as much anymore because you deal with a company like a hosting company and you contract WordPress from them and they'll install it for you and give you a server. But if you needed to do it on your own, that's what WordPress.org is. So you'll probably deal with WordPress.com. Google Blogger. So this is the platform I mentioned where I actually build single page websites for as little as about $400. So the reason, and it's completely free. It's very limited, doesn't have as many bells and whistles, if you will. It's hard to go into the details on a webinar of what they do and don't include. But you do not pay a monthly hosting charge. It's great for beginners. It's great for getting started. For these free services that are out there, I actually like Google Blogger for one reason, which is Google knows about Google Blogger. It's good for Google searches. Google likes Google stuff. No reason why you can't use a free WordPress site. Also, on Google Blogger, you can use your domain. So you can use mycompany.com. And even though they put right at the bottom, this is Google Blogger, it's pretty easy to remove that. On WordPress, the free, it's not easy to remove the WordPress. It used to be, but it's not anymore. Another one that's out there, it's waned a little bit, Tumblr. So also free, includes free hosting. So if you're looking for beginner sites, you could use Google Blogger or Tumblr. And Google Blogger, there are tips that I put into it to turn off the blogging and really make it look like a website. So you can use it for an entry-level website. Popular web platforms, and this is probably what more of you are going to be interested in. That little picture on the right there has a lot of them, probably most of them that are out there. Squarespace, they've got commercials on TV. Their personal plan starts as low as $12 a month. It includes the hosting. It's great for beginners to build a site because it has the drop and drag functionality, so you can try and do it yourself or have a family member do it for you. They do give you templates to choose from. Some of them are really very nice. So you can do some customizations with it and where you're going to put your pictures and text, lots of web pages and lots of functionality that's available. A business plan, which gives you a little bit more functionality, and you can just go to their Squarespace website. You can look at the platform and the pricing. A few dollars a month gives you some more features, may be useful for you. Usually it also gives you more memory and storage as well. Wix, another one of the companies that's pretty big out there. In terms of use, kind of similar to Squarespace, you could build the site with drop and drag. So you really don't need a lot of programming and coding at all. Like Squarespace, your setup tends to be pretty quick and easy. The basic Wix starter is free. Again, you cannot use your domain. It's going to be, mycompany.wix.com. So it looks a little less professional when you do that. And then their subscriptions start at $13 a month, so not terribly expensive. Weebly. I probably could have the same wording for each of these programs. Very similar. It's drop and drag. I do have a couple of Weebly clients as well. No coding skills required. And setup does tend to be very basic. And you're using the Weebly website builder. It does start for free. And like a lot of the others, no longer can you use your own domain. But then it adds on at $6 a month, and you can begin to use it more as a personal and then into a business platform. WordPress. Also, if you use the basic WordPress.com, no coding skills are required. But WordPress, you can really get heavy duty into the coding. You could do a lot of customizations with it. The free version does have ads. Remember that WordPress.com. You can't use your domain. The paid version starts at $4 a month. And I think at $4 a month, it still says WordPress at the bottom. And the next level is where they take the WordPress branding off. And then WordPress.org, this is where you would need hosting from a third party. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. So it's basically your own WordPress environment on a server that you are paying for hosting. And you get a lot more flexibility and control over that environment. 35–40% of the websites are built on WordPress. It is the most popular platform out there. It is a very strong platform, not terribly expensive, but not really meant for beginners, at least intermediate. You have to be a bit comfortable with web building. Here's a whole list of word hosting platforms. These are basically companies that say, if you want to host a website, you can host it with us. What's nice, that means we don't need to have a server on our own. So hosting can be free. It's hard to find a free service that's really valuable. Google Blogger still gives you enough for free to have a decent website to get started. But starting about $3–4 a month, with some of these services, you get the basic platform. And so you see some of these companies, HostGator tends to be good, One-on-One, GoDaddy, those tend to be the bigger and more popular. Bluehost, another big company. Sometimes they have multiple choices. You can use their hosting platform or WordPress when you work with these companies. When you work with a Squarespace or a Wix or Weebly, you're only using those platforms. They don't have multiple. But when you work with a hosting company like this, they'll have their own hosting platform, and then they'll have WordPress. And you have to decide which would be best for you. And so here's just a list again of some of the popular ones. When you work with Amazon Web Services, when you work with Google, they tend to have less support. It's really meant for people who are much more comfortable with the technology platforms. When you use like HostGator, GoDaddy, and Bluehost, those organizations, they tend to have tech support. They'll work with you. They're really meant for people, or they work well with people that are not as tech savvy. I can tell you I've always had a good service experience when I've talked to the folks at GoDaddy. So domains, website domains, let's talk a little bit about that. The .coms, the .nets, the .orgs, lots of those extensions now. So it's also known as a URL, or Uniform Resource Locator. That's what that URL means. It's a web address. That's essentially what it is. Before they came out with these text names that we're all used to, Amazon.com and so forth, we used to have to use numbers, a series of 4 numbers together with dots in between. They were called IP addresses. Now what happens is your web address, the text-written web address, translates to that numerical address. The computers like the numerical address, but us people, we like the written address. You can acquire a domain from a hosting provider. You don't buy them. Really what you're doing is you're kind of renting them. It's like a subscription. And there are lots of companies out there, GoDaddy, Google, One-on-One, HostGator. There's a lot of them. Cheap Names is another one. Usually you can acquire them for a term of 1 year or up to 10 years I've seen. What Google's way of doing it is you acquire it and renew it every year. That's just the way they do it. Some companies like GoDaddy and HostGator, you can prepay for several years in advance. And sometimes when you prepay, they give you discounts. Average cost, so give or take, starting about $10 a year. Some of the companies are a little bit more. They're giving you more services and whatnot. But for the basic domain itself, $10, $12 a year is about right. There are other things that you can get, which is called privacy, for one. Privacy means that when someone searches for the domain, your name as the person who registered would be hidden. Your contact information would be hidden. Some of the companies, it's an add-on, some of them included in the price. Squatters, these are people that buy and sell domains, and sometimes at a very big profit. So is it illegal? No, it's actually not illegal. You can go out and register any domain that you want. The only time it is illegal is when you're registering a domain that's trademarked. So if you've ever seen a brand like Coca-Cola and other big brands have a little TM next to it, that means they've got the legal right to that name. So if for some reason they didn't renew their Coca-Cola and you wanted to go get Coca-Cola.com and try and resell it for a lot of money, it's not likely that they would lose it. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that. Long story short, I was looking for a company, and a fellow had the domain already, and I was put in touch with him so I could try to acquire it from him. And I was able to figure out that he actually had acquired the domain about 18 months earlier than when I was looking for it. So give or take $10, $15 a year, my boss authorized me to pay no more than $500. And so I told the guy, look, I can't negotiate with you. I'll tell you right off the bat, the most I can pay is $500. He was holding out for $10,000. He felt the name was that valuable. I understood his point. I didn't agree with him. I didn't think it was that valuable. That's what he did. He was also hosting, in addition to that company, he bought a bunch of names that were like pizzadeliveryguy.com and some others like that, hoping that like Domino's or Caesars would want to buy it from him. So, yep, so there are squatters and there are people that buy, hold, and resell them. Let's talk also about search engine optimization. We could spend an hour or more talking about search engine optimization. We clearly don't have the hour or more, but I really want to make sure as part of the website best practice, you understand, at least at a high level, search engine optimization, know some of the terms so that when you start to talk to other professionals about it, it won't be brand new to you at that time. But search engine optimization, this is kind of a cute slide. If you remember the movie Field of Dreams, and there was that saying, if you build it, they will come. And Kevin Costner built the baseball field, and he thought Shoeless Joe Jackson was going to come because of that. Well, in the web world, that's not what happens. Just because you build a website and you publish it, people don't come right away. They don't know about you. You're not advertised. You're not able to be found. I did have one client when we finished building the website. I called him and congratulated him when it went live, and he wanted to know when the phone calls were going to start. Well, that was a whole nother discussion about how to get that attention. And so if your website is not found online, and this is someone searching for a business like yours, if your website's not found online, your competition will come up in the Google or Bing search, but yours won't. And so that becomes very important. Again, like I said before, if you're not found online, your business is irrelevant. And so you want to be found online. So what really is search engine optimization? And it's really a process of your website gaining visibility organically through the search engine results. You want to drive traffic to your website. And search engine optimization is the process of having your website found when people are searching for you in a online search like in Google and Bing. There are two basic components of search engine optimization. There's what's called on-page SEO, and there's off-page SEO. And it really pertains to the relationship of the SEO to your website. Yep, good. So let's first talk about how search engines work, and then we'll talk about the difference between on-page and off-page SEO in more detail. You enter a search term or a word in the search engine, right? We all know about that. We open up Google or Bing, any of those websites, and we put something like plumbers, and you're hoping to get a list. This is not how websites work. A lot of people think this is the way it works, but this is not how it works. It is not the case that Google will then instantly search every web server, every website around the world, try and figure out which one or ones are most relevant to the term that you put in, then figure out which ones are close enough that it's worth their while to show you. Google doesn't do that. What Google really does is they go out, night and day, and they search every website anyway. They're just doing it anyway. Naturally, they're searching every website, and they take the information that they find and they store it in their database. They have these little programs called bots or spiders or web crawlers. They crawl the World Wide Web. They find anything about any website, they send it back to Google's database. Google may or may not know what to do with that information right away, but eventually it figures out, it finds relevancy to all these terms and begins to compile that so that your search results are really the information that Google now has figured out is relevant to your search term. The reason why it doesn't search every website in the world at this very moment is it would just take too long. I mean, it's a big world, millions of websites. They have the information in their database. It's actually still very impressive that they can turn around results, 1 million results in a second and a half. So what are the different components of SEO? There's on-page SEO. This is what's on your web pages, on your websites. This is stuff that you are in control of. And if you're not the web programmer, it's the web programmer that you've engaged with, who is hired by you. So this is the stuff that's in your control. You find the keywords, the location, the other information we alluded to earlier, and you can add that on your web pages. Now, there are hidden places you can put that as well, but you want to make sure that you get that on. Hidden pages, you want to make sure the title is accurate. And then inside the website, there's some code called tags. You want to make sure the title tag gets coded as well. In some cases, you put it in the code directly. In other cases, you put it in the structure of the page. Wix and Squarespace has all these fields you kind of fill in, and it puts it in for you. You also want to update your web address for each page. So here's mine, princetontechadvisors.com/technology services. What's that page about? It's about technology services. I actually had a client come to me probably about 2 years ago, engaged me to do some search engine optimization. And one thing I found out on the 10-page website, each page was numbered. Page 1, page 2, page 3. So I asked, what is page 3? And he said, well, page 3 is my services. I said, no, but what is it? When you read it, what is it saying? It's not saying anything. So you want to make sure your URLs, your web addresses for each page also have keywords built into them as well. And then there are these different codes and descriptions and other characters, fields that are hidden. One's called meta description and meta tags. There's a bunch of them that go into a website. You can't see them, I can't see them, but Google finds them. And Google likes reading these things. Those little bots, those little programs find them and will read them. And it tells more information to Google about your website. It really tells the search engine more about what your site is about. And then also there's called alt tags. These are what are attached to the images. You may remember in the old days, you would have a photograph, not a digital photograph, but a paper photograph. And you might have written on the back of the photograph, the month and the year and the event, right? 1970 dad's birthday party, something like that. Well, alt tags are the digital equivalent. It's putting extra information about the pictures on kind of a hidden space. Google will find and read these as well. When you put a lot of the same keywords in all these different places, in addition to the on page of your website, it begins to make sense to Google. That's that consistent story, the consistent message. And so you want to be able to do these things. When you work with Weebly and Wix and Squarespace and WordPress, they usually have fields that you can fill in. So you don't have to put it in the computer code itself, but wherever you have these fields that these software give you, fill them in, take the time to fill them in. It'll really be a big benefit. There's also what's called on-page SEO. Off-page SEO. On-page is what's on your website. Off-page is what's not on your website. It's basically the activity of others, how others are referencing your website and giving you credibility. If there's another website that has a link to your website, that's pretty powerful in the SEO world. That's like an electronic approval, an electronic reference. And so the search engines like that other websites, other companies are talking about yours. So it does give an indication to how the world, at least via search engines, understands and perceives your website. The most important really are what's called link building, from typically, in best case, within your own industry. So you want to have web addresses to your website on other people's websites. And you want to have web addresses to other people's websites on your website. This kind of cross-connecting, it's called link building, is very powerful in the SEO world. Again, it really builds credibility. Now, you may not easily be able to convince your vendors, your partners, other people, business associates to do this for you, but you can on your own social media pages. So that's a great place to get started. So if you have a Facebook page, or excuse me, a LinkedIn page, if you have a YouTube channel, put links from those sites to your website as well. So ways to improve SEO, start with the on page. It's your website, you're in control. It's the one that's easiest for you to do. So start with the on page. Then move on to the off page. This will take more time to develop. Some of it will happen organically, where people will hear about you and want to contribute. But you can also ask other web owners, business people that you know, make an agreement. I'll use your website if you use my website and post that content. Put it on your social media platforms. Submit articles and blog posts on other platforms. And so get that attention as well. And so that'll begin to build some of that off-page SEO. Okay, and it is intermission time once again. So I will open the QA. Okay, Sam is asking, why doesn't Amazon have a real competitor? Is it that difficult to create a website? If I knew that answer, I would be right behind Amazon. They clearly have a lot of investment money to promote and do what's necessary to be found, to create their message and their brand. From a social media perspective, people are knowing them. Not much different than maybe in the retail space years ago with the big box stores like Sears and Macy's and others that were just very well known. So a lot of the variety of services, the quality of the business really got a lot of attention. If you have a product, can you pick Shopify and the others all at the same time, or is it better to go with one? I would think all charge a few times or a percentage. What percentage does show, what percentage do they charge? My opinion is no, you don't want to be on multiple e-commerce websites, because what you're ultimately doing is building a website on their platform. You would not have 3 websites to sell and promote yourself. You would have one and promote yourself. Pick the platform that you feel you're most comfortable with, Shopify or the others, and then, or even WordPress and some of the other platforms do have e-commerce functionality built in. Assign your web domain to that one and use that one. What do they charge? Shopify starts at $29 a month, $30 a month, and then about 3% per transaction, give or take, which includes credit card processing. And what percent? Okay, good. So the next one. What do you think of Bluehost as a hosting platform? It's fine. I've only worked with one client that has Bluehost. I didn't have a problem with it. Is it practical to build and maintain a website on the same personal computer you use to run your small business? Is it practical? No. So I would not do that. At the very least, if you turned off your small business computer and went home and then turned it back on the next day, your website would be down. If you do build it, you would want to build it on your server. Yes, that would be practical. Do make sure that you have sufficient support agreement, malware protection, virus protection, all that kind of stuff. And also you'll have to see for collecting credit cards. Do you need to be PCI compliant, or will you be using a hosting platform? There's a lot more you have to take care of when it's all on your own. I think for most small business, it just doesn't make sense. Also, you do need to have several software running. Your computer does need to be big enough to have the 3 or 4 tiers of software to support a website. What is shared hosting versus dedicated hosting? Shared hosting basically means you're contracting with a hosting company, GoDaddy, Bluehost, whatever, and you're using a computer, and other people are on the same computer. There's kind of an electronic wall. You don't see each other. You're running it like your own, but it's more cost effective for these server companies to put lots of their customers on one computer. Or dedicated means you are getting an entire server for yourself. Now, does it pay to have shared versus dedicated? It depends on what you're doing. Depends on what amount of resources you need. Do you need a lot of resources? Do you need a dedicated server? Or can you get away with a shared environment? And that can't be answered really in a platform like this. How does Google Sites compare to the other platform? It's basically fine. Frankly, the sites that I've seen in Google Sites are very basic. I haven't seen anyone put a nice site together, maybe because they used it as a starter site before they moved on to something else. So I'd say use it as an entry level. Yep, so that's a possibility. I actually have a website. I want to transfer it to GoDaddy, I think, and redesign my website. Could I still keep my name? Yes, you can absolutely keep your name. And even if you have a web name, domain, and the web domain is not with GoDaddy, but the website is hosted by GoDaddy, that's not an issue either. So yes, you could move the website from one platform to another. Remember I said that a web address has numerical translation to it. That will change. So you'll have to change those, what's called DNS, domain server entries. Other than that, yes, you can keep it. And even if you're going to GoDaddy, they'll help you with that. When seeking to register a domain, are there any precautions you should take to prevent a domain seller from somehow finding out about your application and stepping in front of you and registering the name first? Well, if you're seeking a name, I don't think there's a problem at all. Register it. You know, for 10, 15 bucks, register it. You might register 2 or 3 or 4 to get started, but, you know, for the low money, and just hold on to them. You may use 1 or more of them ultimately. What I would do is, as soon as you have an idea for it, register that domain right away so that somebody else can't register it from under you. Also, if you're starting a new business, you are not yet registered as an LLC or a corp, I would say register the domain before you register for the LLC or the corp, or on the same day, because when you register your business through the state, at least through New Jersey, it is on the public record. There are squatters that read through the public record, look for newly registered companies, and try and squat on the domains. So for the cost of a domain, just get a couple, the ones that you think you're going to use. Worst case, a few of them will expire at the end of the year. Does Facebook like and posts contribute to off-page? Yes. So well, likes not so much. The posts can. The real trick is you certainly want to make sure it references your website. So if you write a nice Facebook link, post, and you don't reference your website, it doesn't have any value for off-page SEO. If you are reading somebody else's post and you click like, it doesn't have any impact for off-page SEO. On the post should be a link to your website. So you can write something like, if you want for more information, go to my website, www.mybusiness.com. And then these will have more of an impact. How do you put others' links and your links to their website? Well, a link is basically typed in text. So you find a space where you do that. And then you have a functionality, it's not hard to do, to turn it into a link. And you just type it in and tell the website it's a link. I have one client who has a bunch of links to his providers, his content providers. He sells and builds custom furniture. So all the materials and machinery and stuff, paints and varnishes that he uses, he's got kind of like a product vendor page. And so that's the way he just puts it there on his website to create that off-page SEO. Could I create a website like Amazon's? I don't understand the question. So can you make one look like Amazon? I guess. Can you do e-commerce? Yes. Can you be as effective as Amazon? Not at the beginning, I would suspect, but there are a lot of effective e-commerce businesses that are doing quite well, even though they're not at the volume of Amazon. But I don't really understand your question, Sam. Can you write a blog on your website and then have it linked to the social media that you use? Absolutely, it's a good thing to do. If you want to, you could also post on your blog and have your social media pick up that text right away automatically. It's called an RSS, and then it'll be posted automatically to your social media sites. It's a great way to expand your coverage. Are there compliance and legal issues that we need to be aware of to put in our websites, like a disclaimer of any sort? If you are in an industry that has compliance and legal issues, then yes. Beyond that, you need to speak to a business attorney or somebody in your industry. I just don't have a more thorough answer than that right now. And let me see if chat has anything. Oops, where did it go? Nothing new in chat. Good. So let us move on. So we've talked about different types of websites. We talked about improving visibility through search engine optimization. And if you remember, I said search engine optimization is organic. You start putting that content in, Google begins to kind of figure this out over time. You should expect, as you put information in search engine optimization, it'll start to be seen, understood, relevant by Google anywhere from 1 to 3 months. But then there's something called paid search or pay-per-click. And that's different. That's a way of gaining visibility instantly. Okay, so what is it? It is an internet marketing strategy. Search engine optimization is an internet marketing strategy too. But pay-per-click is one where you pay a fee each time someone clicks on one of your ads. And you'll see an example of an ad in a moment. So you're essentially buying qualified visits to your website rather than earning them organically over time. And you may say, gee, that may be worthwhile. I wouldn't mind paying if I knew I got someone coming to my website. And so for some people, they're very willing and able to do that. It's really one of the most popular forms of online advertising, because what happens is people are finding your website at the moment they're searching for something that matches your ad. So social media platforms, internet search engines offer paid advertisements. For instance, you've probably seen in Facebook that you could boost a post and pay for that as well. And that's kind of the same thing. There are also online sponsors that are available. The most popular one in the internet world is called Google Ads. It used to be called Google AdWords. Now it's called Google Ads. And 89% of searches, this was in 2016, were done via Google. So if you're wondering, should you do pay-per-click on other platforms in addition to Google? Well, I can't tell you no, but what I can tell you is more bang for your buck will be, especially if you're on a fixed budget or you want to limit your budget exposure, start with Google, because 89% of internet searches were done via Google. A lot less on Bing and the other platforms. Your website is seen by your customers at the very moment they're searching on Google for the things you offer. And more specifically, as long as what they're searching for matches your ad. Now, the ad could pop up. You don't pay for that. Actually, Google Ads is free. It's actually a free service. You only pay when they click to visit your website. So you have to write an ad that tells people what you offer. And you're going to use similar keywords that you will use for search engine optimization. And actually, when I do search engine optimization projects, and I want to find the keywords that Google searches have for a client business, I actually use Google Ads as one of the tools to help me find those, because Google Ads will tell me the results of billions of searches, and Google provides that information for free. Right? You choose your advertising audience. You can actually make a Google ad targeted right down to a single zip code, and you can use specific keywords. That's very important. For instance, if you have a fairly local business, if you are, let's say, a landscaper in Mercer County, you want to make sure that you include maybe Mercer County, Middlesex County, the border counties, whatever your geographic surface area. You don't want to pay for clicks outside of that area, people in Texas or California or Virginia or anywhere around the country. So when you build the ad, you can make it very specific to a single zip code, to a single county, a metropolitan suburban area. You can include a county but exclude zip codes, whatever makes sense for you. So that way it only shows up. Now, Google knows where the user is based on the computer that they're on, the IP address and the network that they're going through. So it tends to be pretty reliable. Of course, there can be ways it'll be outside the area, but for the most part, they're pretty reliable with that. And then you also set what's called a bid strategy. How much are you willing to pay for a click? Google usually gives you advice. And it might seem cheap, $1 a click, $2 a click. It's not pennies, typically, it's not pennies. But you may say, gee, $1 isn't bad. But if you had 100 people click, that's $100. So you want to make sure you set the how much you're willing to pay. And you also set a daily budget. So even if you're willing to pay $1 a click, you may set a daily budget of $10. That's $300 a month, $10 a day for 30 days. So you have to decide if that budget is right for you. So what happens when you have reached the budget? If you've had 10 people click on your ad to get to your website 10 times by 12 o'clock noon, for the rest of the day, your ad just won't pop up as a Google ad. It can still be found through the regular organic search, but it won't pop up on the Google ad. And Google ads always come up higher than the websites that are not being paid for. So here's an example. I did a search for plumber Princeton, and the first 4 there are ads. You know that because right under the name is a little green box that says ad, A-D, ad. Now, you look at that, plumber Princeton, and I picked plumber on purpose because plumbers are a business, in my opinion, that aren't typical to do a lot of search engine optimization and advertising on their website. So what came up? Horizon Services came up. They paid for an ad, or they set up an ad. They're willing to pay. Roto-Rooter, big company, we've heard of that. Another one, Mr. Rooter, right below that. AJ Perry, another big company in New Jersey that's an HVAC company and plumbing company. Those are the first 4 plumbing companies that came up. They're positioned based on their Google ad. What came up next? Home Advisor, not a plumber. So from a Google search and SEO perspective, Home Advisor came up higher than plumbers. And then Yelp were the next 2. I don't know what was below that. So plumbers are not coming up organically. So you either have to do good SEO to come up higher or be willing to have a Google ad. So let's kind of compare search engine optimization to the pay-per-click for search engine marketing. Well, first of all, search engine optimization tends to be slow. I said it takes about 1 to 3 months for your changes to begin to be seen by Google. It's how effective your strategy is. Just because you put a couple of keywords in your website doesn't mean it's going to instantly be considered relevant for Google. But changes typically 1 to 3 months. It's free. You don't pay for SEO. Now, if you hire someone to do the SEO for you, you're doing that, but you're not paying a service. But it also tends to be very durable. Once Google, once Bing, once they know about you, they kind of hold on to that, like an elephant. They don't forget. Pay-per-click tends to be very fast. As soon as you turn on the ad and activate it, it will be instantly available. It'll be instantly relevant. And as long as the search that people are doing matches your ad, your search results will come up very high on the Google, usually on the first page. It can be expensive. If your ad comes up multiple times, especially near the top, you're going to generate some organic interest of people, let me see what this is about. So you do have to make sure your ad is specific enough that it does match what the person is looking for. I did have one client who is a lawyer, and he was doing legal consulting services, not a law, but he was switching to legal consulting services. And it was in an area of criminal law. And we did set up an ad. And what we were getting were, based on the keywords, it was similar to not his business. We had a hard time crafting. He was getting a lot of people coming to his website and then leaving very fast. We knew that from the analytics, which I'll talk about in a moment. So you have to make sure your ads are very good. Of course, you can change the ad and hone it as much as you need. And of course, it's temporary. As soon as you turn off the ad, it is no longer relevant in the search. So pay-per-click, what's nice is the return on investment can be tracked, because you can see how many clicks came to you, how long they were on your website, things like that. It's not affected by the search algorithms. So if Google ever changed the search algorithms on the organic search, pay-per-click will pop right up. And you can very well target your audience and get to them quickly. So those are some of the differences between pay-per-click and SEO. So site analytics. So now that you've got your website, now that you've got a strategy for marketing, whether it's SEO, online marketing, search engine marketing, or pay-per-click, you want to understand what is the performance of your website. Now, of course, the best measure is, are you getting phone calls? Are you getting emails that say, I want to buy your service and product? If you're getting a lot of those conversions, it is working. But that's only one measure. So let's talk about analytics. Analytics basically is a way of monitoring the performance of your website. And then you make changes along the way. The analytic tools don't tell you what changes to make, because they're not smart enough to know about your business, but they can report on the performance of your website. So types of things, you can measure the results of your online, your social media programs. You can see what works. If I put in certain keywords, am I getting more hits to my website? Am I getting less hits? You can help make better decisions. You get to make better decisions about what you want to do from your search engine marketing perspective. So focus more of your time and your investment on the most productive areas. It really helps you focus on your search engine marketing strategy. You get to ask the question, am I achieving my goals? So that becomes really very important to you as well. Am I achieving the goals? Am I getting out of my search engine marketing strategy what I want to? There are several analytics sites. So we'll talk about using analytics. Google Analytics is completely free. It is free with a Google account, whether you have a Google business account or you have a personal account. I would set up a G Suite or a business account. You can see exactly where visitors are coming from right down to the zip code. The one thing Google Analytics will not show you is specifically who is coming to your site, but it will tell you how many page views for each of your web pages, how many times they've clicked on links, bounce rate, which is do they come to your site and leave quickly, or do they stay for a long time? You can see geographically where they're coming from. So it gives you a tremendous amount of information. So if you're trying to have local search engine optimization and you want to have a lot of your visitors and sites users coming from a fairly close geographic region, you could see if that's effective by tracking where they're coming from. Are people landing on your website, spending time looking at a few web pages, or they bounce off right away? That becomes very relevant. And the reason why is if they bounce off right away, then your SEO is not matching the way people are searching. Your site is not as effective. But if they're landing, staying, viewing pages, then it's much more effective. Social media has analytics as well. Certainly there are the engagements that do that. Those are clicks, likes, follows, comments, all that sort of thing. Those are all ways of knowing that people are engaging with you. And then there are also things about impressions, how many people see your content, how many are promoting it, forwarding it, retweeting, all those things all become very relevant. Different social media platforms have different means of allowing you to understand the performance of your page and your social media site. You decide what to do with the information. Google, social media sites won't tell you what words to change, how to expand your search region, how to expand your geography. They can't tell you that. But what you can see over time is the performance of your website. So if you do make changes every 3 or 4 months, keep track of what those changes are and then look at the performance. Obviously, like the little picture to the right, you want your arrow going up. Are you able to fine-tune your online strategy as well as site content? So now you're able to do that when you start fine-tuning your strategy. When you start fine-tuning your site content, it will hopefully improve the analytics. You'll draw more people to your site. And again, analytics will show you how to do that. So near the end, right now, we're at the end, websites, blog sites, they're all accessible through the internet. There are different types of websites. It's really your need defines what you build. Is it a business site, a personal site? Is it going to be static? Is it going to be interactive? What you build is really based on what your need and purpose are. There are many tools and platforms. You have to use the one that really meets your need, your functionality, and your budget. And search engine optimization, site analytics, these are really to help people find you and to understand the performance of your website and search engine marketing strategy. So that is our summary. Now, I did promise you that you can download this slide deck. The slide deck is at my website, princetontechadvisors.com, princetontechadvisors.com. I don't know if you want to take a screenshot. But do go to my website. Then you can see there's a menu item called Workshops. And then from there, click on Recently Offered Presentations. And all of my presentations this year are on that page. And so this one will be the top slide deck. So you could just download it. It's a PDF, and it's yours to use as you need. So just go to my website, Princeton Technology Advisors, or Princeton Tech Advisors, either one will work. And you could go to Workshops and click on Recently Offered Programs to download the PDF of this. So good. Any more questions? I will go take a look. In the meanwhile, here is my contact information. You are welcome to contact me. So there are a few more Q&A that are there. If you get a domain name how do you make sure at the end of the year someone else doesn't get it? How do you ensure your name? How do you ensure name is always yours? So with domains, you don't own them. You are kind of renting them. As long as you keep paying for them, it'll be yours. So what I would suggest you want to do is set up an auto renewal and make sure you always have an active credit card on it. Typically, these companies that you register from, they'll send you an email a month or so before that it's getting ready to renew. Hopefully, they'll also remind you if your credit card expired. Are the contents of your blog protected? I don't know what the question means. If you mean like protected from malware and that kind of stuff and hackers, it depends on if you have security built on your site. If you're saying from a copyright perspective, you would need to speak to an attorney about the proper way to protect the written content of what you're writing. Now, typically in a blog, I would not be putting content that is very proprietary. If you've got the secret formula to cure coronavirus, don't blog about it. That's not what a blog is for. For a blog, what I would say is it's going to be the type of information, almost like an advertisement or sales. So it supports you, supports your business. It educates people, not typically anything brand new. So just think of it that way. How much does pay-per-click cost? Well, Google gives you a suggestion of what the click will cost, and it's based on how others are using it. And then again, you got to build your strategy. Do you want to have a daily budget? Do you want to just have a per-click budget? If you don't put a daily budget, and let's say it's a click of $1 a click, and 100 people click a day, you're going to be spending $100 a day, times 30, so $3,000. That's a lot of money. So it all depends. Set your budget first, and then apply your pay-per-click strategy. Do you think you're?
Sorry, can I jump in there? Just
Yeah.
So we're seeing the information about how to get the slides, but I also wanted to mention we have been recording this webinar. So we have sent you a survey, and that should be in your email as of now. And if you can just take a 2-question survey quickly, it should take you less than a minute. And then as our thanks, we will send you a link to the recording as well as some additional resource links. So just check your email and take a few seconds, and please give us your feedback. We value it a lot. It helps us improve. And with that, I'll turn it back to David. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Amelia. Do you think competitors might purposely click on your ads so you get charged? I don't know. That's certainly a mean strategy for somebody to do. They also have to have a lot of free time not running their business in order to sit there and click. So I don't know. I'm hoping honest people would not be doing that. You mean I get to decide how much I want to pay per click, a nickel? Yeah, actually you can do that. Google sets recommended rates. And I usually advise my clients stick with that. We're not talking $1,000 a click. It's never that kind of thing. But what happens is Google may show you, certainly won't be the #1 that pops up. So when you have a lot of business that is in competition with you, you want to stick within the rate that Google gives you. But yeah, you got to decide. I think you're much better off using the rate that Google decides and set a daily budget than say, I'll just pay a nickel each. And there may also be some cases where Google won't accept the low amount. I should have asked before, if a squatter owns a site and then you trademark your name, can you force them to release the site? You'll have to talk to a trademark attorney about that. I just don't know. I'm sure there have been cases about that. I just don't know. But my advice to you is get your domain early at the beginning of starting your business. Hold on to it, and this way you don't have to worry about a squatter. And then I guess copyrights, this pertain to the blog question a little bit earlier. So A blog, I don't believe automatically gives you copyright rights. And I think just because you put a little C like I did at the bottom of my slides doesn't really mean it's legally copywritten. You'd have to speak to an attorney about that. Okay, and there's 2 chats, I think. Let's see. Deep dives and a couple of thank yous. So thank you for that, certainly. So good. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I hope you got some good information out of this. I really enjoyed having the opportunity to present this to you and for SCORE. So Amelia and Lisa, thank you so much for the invitation. And again, for anyone who is still on the call, you have my contact information. Feel free to send me an email and we could talk offline if that will be helpful. And if not, download the slides, and I'll also look forward to the video, and hopefully see you again soon at the next virtual meeting. So thank you. Have a good night, everybody.